Lady. My camera's got some dust on it. Hold standby. I'm gonna clean that baby off. I think that's what it is. Oh yeah, that's better. I look so much better now. All right, here it is. It's Wednesday night, and this is typically our night when we do Anyone Can Farm question and answer with Mark and Jill. And on the end of that, I wrote on there, anyone can farm. And you may notice that I use that quite a bit. And it's been a while probably since I've explained where anyone can farm came from. All right, Jack's in the house, as usual, very loyal listener. And I have Miss Jill with me at the kitchen table on the old laptop. Isn't she cute? And Jill's been burning the candle from both ends lately, so she's a tired pilgrim. So I'm not going to be able to yak too much tonight because I'm going to have to cut her loose at 1 hour exactly, or I'm going to be in some serious trouble. So, interesting day around here. I had some small jobs that I needed to do. I had planned on butchering 2 beef today, but my son, 2 of my sons that were going to help me that are around here. Hey, Dave. My oldest son and my second oldest son, who's home now, were tied up. So I couldn't get them today, and I can't get them tomorrow. So we're going to put it off until Sunday. All right. My oldest son is a fireman. Hey, Brittany, how you doing? I saw a little conversation between you and some people on the Mangalitsa page. I thought that was kind of interesting. And Mary's here. Thank you, Mary. Thanks for coming. And so we weren't able to do that today. So perfect though, I have a couple of jobs that just have loose ends that I need to get done. And one of them, I'm 99 and 44/100% completed on it. But my little garden shack that I built, that's part of the root cellar. I had an extension cord going out to it that I told you about. Right, I need thumbs up. Jill's signaling me for the thumbs up. Please, thumbs up. It helps with the Al Gore rhythms. And the extension cord, I ran it over with my plow and I ruined it. So I cut it in a couple of places. So I had the wire to run a wire out there. And so I did, and I just pushed it down under the snow. So that part of it I won't be able to do this winter, but where I ran it in, I wanted to make it look good, so I stapled it up the wall, and then I had an old antique fuse box that was about this big with the screw-in fuses. So I used that, and then I ran a run for 2 incandescent lights overhead, because I just like the way they look. I just like them. And then I put in a switch loop for those lights. I put in 2 plugs on either side of the building. And then I put a run down into the root cellar. So when you open the door to go down there, you're not walking into darkness. You can flip a light on and it's kind of nice. And, along with the light down there, there's also an outlet. So if I had to run a little heater down there, I could. And it's not quite complete. I've got it so it stays relatively warm. But on a couple of those real cold nights, because there's not a door at the bottom of the stairs, it did get a little cold in there. And our radishes got a little rubbery, but they're still edible. They're still totally edible. They're just not crisp like they were. And, not a big deal. I mean, in this homesteading thing, a lot of times projects get worked to a certain point, and then you have to go on to something else, you know, and then maybe on a rainy day, I can get back in there and complete it. But without the electricity out there, I was kind of dead in the water because my table saw is out there and I needed it to do a couple things in the house. And I just want to get stuff completed so I can operate. And then today there was a lot of coastal gardening is here. Is coastal gardening Canadian? Do you know?
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. Just reminds me, I used to live right on the border of New Brunswick, and New Brunswick people make fun of Newfoundlanders, and they call them Newfies, and they make fun of them pretty good. It's sort of like people in Montana make fun of people from North Dakota, you know. But I kind of know a couple of Newfie jokes. Maybe one of these days I'll share them with you. Neffies. Neffies? I thought they were Newfies. Well, maybe that's what people in Nova Scotia call them. What do they call you? Novies? All right, Bryce is here. Newfies, yeah. Georgia makes fun of Alabama. Did you know that the word Alabama is an Indian tribe? And so is Miami. And the Miami Indians were here in the Midwest, and they were, you know, pushed down to Florida. And maybe Florida is an Indian name too. But, you know, I actually have some Indian blood, and I think they should rename Alabama. I think that should be renamed because I find it offensive. Hey, is there somebody in there that can do a puppy move? Got a puppy that's unhappy back there. You didn't have to do it. Yeah, our puppies in the back room are, 3 weeks old now, maybe. And some of them can get out of the whelping, but well, they can all get out. But then if one of them can't figure out how to get out, then they just sit there and cry. You know, they just,
at the wrong end of the
yeah,
box.
they're at the wrong end of the box or something. So anyway, it was quite the day. I got a lot of things done. I tried to keep abreast of the things that were going on in our country, but you know, it was pretty much what I said last night. We don't have any resolution. I knew we wouldn't, because that is a good way to, you know, destroy morale. You know, a lot of people were thinking, hey, this is the day. But they had too many ways that they could confound that. And, you know, my phone, like certain headlines comes up, like Fox and the Washington Post and all these, and you read them and it's just like, yeah, right, you know. But that's the word that's going out across the country, and I don't really have too much commentary right now because I am going to wait. You know, I am in the same place I was yesterday, and maybe even stronger, because I understand it a little bit better now than I did before. But there certainly is a lot of activity. If you have a little bit of free time, you can go to Monkey Works US and just listen to all the traffic that's up, and it's all military traffic. And some of the, you need a little cuteness fix.
They heard him and they had to see him.
Okay.
He's unhappy because I interrupted his dinner.
Oh,
He's also the whiner.
his name is Anthony Weiner. What's the matter? Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. It's time for you to go back in your box. Boy, it sure smell good. Puppies just have that good smell about them. Okay. Where was I? Yeah, so it was more of the same demoralization And, you know, if you focus on that, then you're not focusing on the good stuff. You know, they're not going to tell you the good stuff because the mainstream media is not in our court. They're going to tell you all the bad stuff that happens, you know, and how terrible the patriot community was when they went to Washington. I suppose, though, if it was a Black Lives Matter deal and they had burned the place down, the cops would, you know, be offering cigarettes to them, you know. That's the way it's going to go. And I mean, I watched the reaction of some of my kids that were here today, and they were like, "Oh, I can't believe this," and da 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 da. You got to look at the bright side of it. There was several million people there. I haven't heard the count, but a lot of people. And I think there was like maybe 6 or 7 of them that busted into a building and put an end to the voting process. I'm not even sure what. And that is not how the patriot community handles themselves. That's how the Antifa people handle themselves. So I think we should just wait and we'll see. But people thought there was going to be resolution today, and there's not. You know, this is war, and they're going to do anything they can. And, you know, conversely, we have very capable people on our side too that are authorized to get this straightened out. And there was a lot of activity today, a lot of military activity going on. Just even in my neighborhood, not in my town, but a few towns over. I think I know what the target was, but I'm not going to say. But a friend of ours over that way, I hadn't heard from this person in a while, and so I called there again today and said, "What, am I on the no-call list?" And this person said, "Well, yeah, but not because of me. It's there is some sort of airplane that keeps flying over our property, and every time they do, our internet goes out and our phones don't work." And I said, "Well, how long has this been going on?" "Off and on since the first of the year." "Oh, so when did it stop?" "This morning it stopped. So far," is what this person said to me. And I said, "What type of aircraft?" And this person is Army and said, "I don't know. I could not identify the aircraft, but it was a fast-moving airplane, and it was very loud." So I'm thinking I know what it was, but there's reasons for that. You know, there's reasons for that, and not to go into too much detail, but jamming is a warfare technique all of its own, right? And there's some very good equipment that's used for jamming that will shut down targeted transmissions, right? So if it was a jet flying over as a fast mover, the only people that really has those are military, probably Air Force, Navy, Marines. But the only ones I know that do the jamming missions are not Marines. So there might be a good reason to jam that airspace, and it's not like you can do that without putting a flight restriction on that area, and evidently there was a flight restriction on the area. So it's good. It's all good. These things have to happen. I knew that we weren't going to be sitting here tonight and saying, "Phew, resolution finally." But if you do want a little bit of a boost, get a hold of the president's speech there. Now, if the president was a defeated man, like if the mayor of DC could defeat him by shutting down the restaurants and shutting down the hotels, and then putting a curfew in place at 6 o'clock, well, then we'd be kind of toast, you know. But she can't do that. And if you look at her, you will understand why she is doing this. I mean, she is of the same ilk. I mean, you can't judge book by its cover, but you kind of can. And I don't mean her race or anything like that, but just the way she carries herself and her history, her behavior. She carries herself very much like the woman out of Chicago. What's her name? Lori Lightfoot. You gonna leave lights on down there? You're not done? So anyway, and if you watch the president's speech, he was very lighthearted and kind of kidding around. And, you know, it was, to me, it sounded like a victory speech, you know. He wasn't shaky. He wasn't like, oh, I'm dependent on this crowd to get as big as possible so I could be president. That's not how it works, right? He needs to show the rest of the world that, hey, there's a lot of, for every person there, you could probably count 100 people that are with him. Because I guess the number is like 75 million now. So that's a serious mandate. Anyway, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna hear a lot of crazy things coming out of the mainstream media. I heard this morning that Pence had not said he will not certify this deal. And that came out of the Washington Post, I think. And so how they knew that, I don't know. But as soon as you read it, you kind of go, what? And then you're like, wait a minute. They say it should be called the Washington Compost because they just say stupid, crazy things all the time. So don't worry, you know, take heart and understand the bigger picture here. There's a much bigger picture, and just watch the erratic moves of the criminal entities. It's unbelievable how backed into a corner they are, and they're on both sides. We've seen a lot of people that we thought were our good Republican friends that have really screwed the pooch here in the last few days and weeks, right? And it's kind of good because then we get to see who they are. Along those lines, I referred to it as the pig thing, right? When we were under the scrutiny of the state and we filed a lawsuit against the Department of Natural Resources, and this is years back, it was in 12, went on for a couple of years, and it was high stress because we didn't know what we were doing, and it's just a lot of nebulousness, you know, and I thought I knew how the Constitution worked. I thought I knew, you know, you hire a lawyer, he's your guy, right? I thought I knew a lot of stuff, but found out quite a bit. But anyway, during that time, I had a politician that called me, and he was running for U.S. Congress, right? U.S. Congressman by the name of John Moulinar. And he called me, and he says, hey, I'd kind of like to come up and talk with you. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I'm out doing deliveries, but sure, I'll be home this afternoon. I'd love to talk to you. And so he came. He had a young protege with him. They were driving kind of an older car, but it was really nice. And they wound up staying for dinner. So he was a sitting congressman at the time, was running for re-election. And he wanted my cadre. He wanted the support of my cadre, which were all the people that supported us. We had, you know, Tea Party was big back then, and there were a lot of people that were just finding their patriotism at that point, and things I said resonated with them about the Constitution, things like that. So we had a pretty good-sized cadre of people, huge actually, in this state and other states. And so this guy was trying to capitalize on, you know, my popularity. And so he came up, and we invited him for dinner. We're just friendly people. We didn't see him as a sleazy politician, you know. And he really presented himself well. Turns out, though, he was the cousin of the Attorney General, whose office tried to fine us $700,000. And he didn't want to talk about that. But anyway, when he left, he gave me his cell phone number, and he said, man, call me anytime. And I thought, I got John Moulinar's cell phone number. I could call him. I know a U.S. congressman. I could call him anytime. Whoa. Well, the first thing that happened was we found out that there was an illegal search done on this property by minions of the state. And so I called him. And he called me back and he says, no, well, we checked with them and they said they didn't do it. Right? So I had firsthand witnesses that say they caught the guys here, you know, in uniform, that came in on snowmobiles from the back of the property and were searching our buildings when we weren't here, right? So I kind of knew who he was, you know. He wasn't really wanting to help us. He wanted me to help him get elected. He did get elected. But anyway, last night I was feeling kind of irritated about the people that we've elected to serve us. And I was thinking about, things. I was just thinking about, you know, what their punishment should be for, you know, offshoring our election data and things like that. And I was reviewing some documents where, you know, firing squad had been reconfirmed as a viable method of executing prisoners who have done federal crimes and treason. And I was thinking about it. And anyway, I decided to send him a text message. I didn't know if he'd get back to me. And I said, why are you not standing up for our president? Because our president is definitely standing up for us, right? And he comes back with a article. He sends me an article from the Washington Post about how contesting this election could actually damage the Electoral College, right? It was meant to just talk over my head like I don't, you know, read in between drooling. And then so I shot back to him and I said, so are you one of those that don't believe there was any evidence of election fraud? And then he gave me some other answer to a question that I didn't ask him, you know, typical politician. But I thought, why is it like that? And why do we just accept, oh yeah, you know, a US congressman, he's a lying, you know, sleazebag, won't do his job. Why are we doing that? Why is that so accepted? Can't we be better than that, you know, is what I thought at the time. And anyway, I don't know where it's going to go, but I am still optimistic. I know that there are real professionals involved in this whole thing right now. Either it's going to go in a good direction, or 75 million people have been absolutely played. And I don't think so, because there's a lot of very smart people involved here. So anyway, this is our Wednesday night, and we reserve this. This is where we started, actually. And allow me to bring you up to speed on the tagline, anyone can farm, all right? Let me bring you up to speed on that. In a court case in Sheboygan, we had an expert witness. He was the number 2 guy with the Department of Agriculture, and he was testifying before a judge at a hearing. And like, he's a real smart guy, right? He's got a PhD, but yet he's never really been a veterinarian. He's never actually operated as a veterinarian, but he got out of veterinarian school and went right to work for the Department of Agriculture and worked his way up, and now he's the number 2 guy. And the number 1 lady couldn't be there. I did get to meet her later, and what a train wreck that was. But this number 2 guy, he was a handsome-looking guy. Boy, he was a handsome guy. But in the course of his testimony, the point that he was trying to drive home to the world, I guess, or at least the judge, was that, hey, farming is, it's a nefarious business, and you have to be a professional. In other words, you have to have gone to Michigan State University to be able to perform it safely. So he brought safety into it. He says, if you don't know what you're doing, you could create the swine flu. I mean, you're raising pigs, you don't do it right, boom, swine flu. We got the swine flu. We could kill the whole world with the swine flu. You're raising chickens wrong, you know what could happen? H1N1. And that was his testimony. And it was ridiculous. Even back then, it was ridiculous. Everybody knew it was stupid. But he did that. And that was the mantra from the Department of Ag was, hey, you got to know what you're doing. And their mantra was, not anyone can farm. You know, like, none of you amateurs can farm. You have to be, you know, certified by us, right? And at the time, they had a program going. I don't remember the name of it. It was one of their many stupid programs that they come up with, and it had an acronym in the front of it. But they wanted every farm in Michigan to be audited by some weenie from the university to tell you if you're doing things right or not. Like, they're the arbiter of it. Oh, it's called GAMPS. GAMPS. And supposedly we were all going to have to do it, because if we didn't, we couldn't sell our product to any restaurants or any retail stores or anything like that. That was what they floated. That sounded a little crazy to me. But a lot of people wanted to be first in line to get their GAMPS audit done. And you had to pay them 2 wieners from the time they left the capital until they got here to your farm, and then you're paying them while they're walking around criticizing the way you farm. And then they'll give you a list of stuff that you need to do. And if you don't do it, you are not GAMPS certified. But if you do, you just pay us $170 and sign on the dotted line, and you're GAMPS certified. But what you just did is entered into a contract with them that you get nothing out of it, but they have access to your process, right? Remember, your life, liberty, and property is protected under due process of law, right? But if you enter into a contract, like you move into a housing complex and they say, well, before you can move in here, you got to sign this contract. The contract says you can't fly any flags, not even the American flag. Then you've entered into a contract, and you've said goodbye to your right there to do that, to your process, right? So my process is my process. I don't have to share that with any experts on it. And really, maybe if they came, we should make it so they have to come and intern with us so I can show them how to properly farm. And then maybe we wouldn't be in the total mess that we're in right now with industrial agriculture, right? Well, anyway, that was where we got the name Anyone Can Farm. And it was a kind of a left-handed jab to them to head them off from where they were going. And what we were doing basically was just mocking them, you know, that anyone can farm. And then we proved it, because we've had all kinds of people come through our classes, and if they learn how to do one process, it doesn't have to be a complex process, who is to say that they're not farming? Who's to say that? I'm sure they'd like to, but you know, the way we say it is, or the way we explain it is, if you're growing some tomatoes out on your porch, who's to say that you're not farming? I mean, you're growing a carbohydrate type crop or a fruit type crop, and you're consuming it. Oh yeah, but that ain't farming. That's hobby. Hobby farming. Okay, so it's hobby farming. No, they love to do that. But let me tell you about Jill and I. We moved off. I moved off. We had a house in town, and then we moved out of town, and we moved into an old farmhouse that had an old barn, and we got some chickens, and that was like, you know, a gateway drug. It was a gateway, and before you knew it, we had 3 little pigs, and then I got some steers. You know, we had 13 little acres, and the more we started doing this, the more we were like, hey, this is really fun, and we're feeding ourselves. I had a good friend at the time, and he said, don't go any further than that, because what you're doing right now is fun, but you get into it commercially, and you'll wish you didn't. He was right. He was right. I told him the other night that he was right. I talked to him the other night. But anyway, anyone can farm has become our tagline for this thing that we do. And industrial ag and Department of Ag, they actually have a tendency to discourage people from farming. And we want to encourage people to farm. That's okay, isn't it? I mean, there ain't no law against that, right? There's no law against it. Ain't. I threw ain't in there just to relate a little bit. So where does this go? I was having a conversation with my son tonight about anyone can farm, and we're faced with making some decisions here, and it seems as though the doors are opening. We have a lot of people that came to our Homestead Hog Harvest this year. That's an anyone can farm function. And, considered doing some infrastructure changes and wanted to put a new building in, make it like a schoolhouse, and then, thought better of that, and I thought, I'm just going to add on to my maintenance shop, which I've been wanting to do anyway, and then it will be a dual purpose deal. We can have a high enough rail that we can do beef in there, and have some more area that's under roof to where when we do our classes, we have, if we need to get in, we can, but we haven't had that. We've got our shop, but it's made for, a staff of like 4 or 5 people working in there, and then we have 20 people here. It's a little tight, and it's really not working as good as I think it could. We're a little tight in there. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do, and but that's where anyone can farm came from, and the Wednesday night is a function of that, to where instead of just our number is on the internet and people watch the videos and stuff, and so they go to bakersgreenacres.com and they get our phone number and they'll call the house, say, hey, can I talk to Mark? I have a question for him. And my family here are nice people, and they say, well, he's out working, but here's his cell phone. And so that wasn't working because my phone was going off constantly, and I couldn't get stuff done. And when I would get frustrated, I'd be like, yeah, what do you want? Make it quick. And people, they want to talk. They want to tell you the whole thing. And that is productive. That is extremely productive. Like if we were sitting at the table here and we're having a cup of coffee and we're going to talk about pastured poultry, that's really productive. I mean, we could be sitting here talking about dumb stuff. I don't even want to say what the dumb stuff is. I can't even think, how many beers you drank last, Saturday night? Or what's your favorite beer? And it's like a high school talk. Oh yeah, but I really like Schlitz. Oh yeah, I drank 10 of them the other night. I was so wasted. That's dumb stuff, right? But when we sit and talk about productive things like pastured poultry, that's good stuff. So this has a lot of merit, and I think a lot more people would want to do homesteading, small farming, and maybe even bust into commercial farming later on. I'm not saying that that's the way you should go at this point. Maybe things will change, but for right now, I think that what you want to do is homestead, keep your day job, and use your homestead as your secondary. It may become your primary, and then it'll switch the other way, like to where what you really focus on is your farmstead. But then, let's say you're a fireman like my son, and you got to work 2 days a week. 2 from 7, that leaves you 5. Man, you can get a lot done on that little homestead, right? So things can switch, or you take a night shift so you can work during the day on your farm, right? Because you have a lot more time than you think. You spend a lot of time doing dumb stuff. So this is productive time, and it also serves as a place where we can say, okay, we're going to do a pastured poultry day, and we're going to start off by completing a chicken tractor. We're not going to start from scratch. We're just gonna complete it so everybody can see, you know, how we did it. And then finally put the cover on and then move it around so you can see how it operates, and the whole time talk about the operational aspect of pastured poultry. And then we're gonna bring it a bunch of chickens and we're gonna process them. We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way, where we have people sitting on white buckets pulling feathers, and then they go to the gutting table and they do the evisceration, and we're gonna have people cutting necks and the whole thing. So when you leave, you could stop at the lumber yard on your way home and buy the materials, and when you come out and jump in your pickup with the materials or your car, you could be calling the hatchery, hey, how quick can I get these? And then you get home and you start putting your chicken track together and your brooder, and your chickens come in, and then all of a sudden you've got a huge jump. So you paid for some education, you've got a huge jump on the whole thing, you know, firsthand. I really encourage people to go to the internet and look at YouTube videos of how to do stuff, but that doesn't work for everybody, right? A lot of people need the hands-on. A lot of people don't have a reference point on a lot of these processes, so it requires way more questions. And that's where I would be if I was taking a computer class. Because somebody would say, okay, open your spreadsheet. And I'd be like, what the hell is a spreadsheet? I don't see that on my computer. I don't see spreadsheet. Oh, well, you got to go into function and this and that and that. You know, I would need somebody sitting there like, show me how to do it, because I really don't care to do it. That's probably why I don't do that stuff. Anyway, so this is the Anyone Can Farm question and answer, and I'm 36 minutes in, so we don't have much time, but I just wanted to explain that, and hopefully Anyone Can Farm starts to mean more to you than just a farming function. Could it be that farmers have to be mechanics too? Yeah. What is it that farmers aren't, right? We could do a class here, how to stitch wounds, right? Of course, we need some people that we could put some cuts on so we can stitch them up. But I'm sure there's people out there that would do that. I'd probably get Dion Stumpo to come and stitch up some wounds. I know what we could do. We could castrate pigs the same day, and then we don't normally stitch them, but we could, right? All right. I'm ready. I'm ready to take some questions before I blab too much.
So we got Sandra with us tonight, and she asked, is the new root cellar doing its job? What do you appreciate about having it the most?
The root cellar is, yes, all the potatoes are down in there, and there was actually some potatoes that only made it as far as the shed and didn't actually make it down the stairs, and they froze. And I brought one in this morning and I said, Jill, can we eat this? So there's, I don't know, 40 pounds of them in a crate, a milk crate, and they froze solid. So I don't know what the disposition was on those. But if they'd been sitting in the house, they would be all sprouty and they get bitter. In our basement, it's kind of, they don't do well there. But the ones that we put into the root cellar are doing just fine. As I said, I ran lights down into there today. That was part of the loose end that I needed to straighten out, was getting the electric in the building that's adjoins the root cellar. So I got 2 plugs in there. I got a set of lights. I got an on and off switch loop. I got a fuse box put in, and I got a run going down into the root cellar. So now I've showed people the root cellar, and you open the door and they're just looking down into the darkness, you know. But now I can open the door, flick on a light, and it actually looks pretty cool down there. So I appreciate that I have a real good start on that. I need a door at the bottom of the stairs to keep the temperature closer to like 40 degrees or 38 degrees. I don't want it going down to 32 because stuff gets hurt, right? So I appreciate having a place where we can store a lot of food. So it gives us the ability to get serious about squash crops. I mean, squash grow really good, and you know, it's a lot of food. It's a whole lot of food that you can store, and it's good for you. I mean, the better I just like the whole system. The more nutrient dense our soil is, then the more nutrient dense our squash will be, and we eat the squash, the more nutrient dense our bodies will be. They'll function better, we sleep better, we breathe better, we do all of the things that we're supposed to do. We do them better, we think better, we do all those things, communicate better if we are providing our body with nutrient dense food. So it's a storage place, it's an accumulation point of sustenance for my children, my wife, you know, and my friends, all that stuff. So I really appreciate it. I really like it. I said something the other night that I have to remind people of. When you're doing these processes and you're new at it, they can take you a lot longer. Some people make it look so easy. But keep in mind, they've been doing it a long time, and maybe they came from a career field where you do those types of things. You know, like if you're an EMT, you are used to cutting into little bodies. You're used to administering shots, things like that. Make it look easy. If you are a carpenter by trade, some of the things that I do would make it look really easy. I wasn't a carpenter. I was for a while in high school. So keep in mind, these things might come slowly at first, but once you accomplish something, like let's say that you built a flower box, okay, and filled it with dirt, it's done. You don't have to do that again. That's done. Then when you build another one, now you have two. You have 50% more than what you had, or is that 100% more? Whatever, you know what I mean? And then you get good at it, you build one that's bigger. And every time you build something, it's done. You don't have to do it again, unless you do a rotten job on it, and then you have to do it over again. So that's where the quality control comes in, that you're gonna, after a while, think, hey, I need to spend some time on this. Here, right behind me, all right, I wanted to do this for years. This building that we're in right now was a garage on the house. As I've told a lot of people, I ran a cat over in here one time with my pickup truck when I was dumping wood in here. And now we, you know, it's living space now. There's windows and sliding door and stuff, but it was just a garage. Had a concrete floor. I used to kid around about it. I'd say, yeah, it's ugly, but it sure is durable. And the wood stove sat right there, and I wanted to build a hearth, you know, as sort of a accumulation point of heat. For years, I wanted to do it. Well, last fall, I did it, right? Carried the stones in. I set all the stones up, well, outside here, power washed them all. I've been saving the stones for years around here when I'd hit a stone out in the field. And then I finally did it. Now it's done. I don't have to do it again. It's kind of behind me, right? And that's really, you gotta embrace that, because then you think, whew, I don't have to do that again. I mean, it was fun, but I needed it done, right? So it's 33 degrees outside right now. Where I'm sitting, it's 80 degrees. I don't need it this warm. I am hot. I have long johns on.
Some of us like it.
Yeah. But that's all I have on is long johns because I was so hot. And Jill doesn't want me to open windows and stuff. But that's a good thing. But you get things done, and after, well, we're here 16 years, there's a lot of things that have gotten done. A lot of things that have gotten done, and it's a culmination of things, and hopefully we can keep going, and someday this could be like the ultimate inspirational training facility, or like maybe Lone Star wants to build like a eco village here. You know, Lone Star bought the property next door to us, and he's got something up his sleeve, I'm thinking. But like an eco village where people could come and stay for a while and kind of, oh, I see how this is done. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see where it goes. I don't want to say this is what I want to do. I'm just taking it as it comes. I've learned to do that with time. So yeah, there we go.
Brittany wanted to
Brittany.
know, have you tried hydroponic growing?
No, I haven't. It's on my list of things to do. Haven't done it. Typically that's someone that's hurting for space is what I thought, but that's not necessarily true. I met a guy out in California, and he had a greenhouse, and he had tanks in the greenhouse with water in them, and he heated the tanks, the water tanks, up to, I don't know, whatever the degree water that you want to raise tilapia in. It's a fish. And he would feed the fish little pellets. The fish would manure. The water got pumped out of there and came down a tray, and in the tray there was like cupcake, like really small coffee filters, like cupcake things with plants in them, with a medium in there, and it wasn't dirt, and this water would come down and the roots would suck up the manure, the fish manure, out of the water. So you had a little tiny pump that was running, and I believe that was solar, and he was creating fish in there along with other things, and that was a hydroponic outfit, and I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was cool. No, I'm all about it. I just haven't got around to it yet, but I'd like to. Maybe if you have, we can have you on and you can tell us what's going on. The Trombleys out in New York, they're doing the what do they call that?
Fodder system.
Fodder system, where you sprout grains and you create these, really cool looking. They look like doormats, but they're about like this high, and a root mass on the bottom, and then the sprouts. And they call it a fodder biscuit. You cut them off in pieces and feed it throughout the year. So it's pretty good. You feed it chickens, pigs, beef. That's pretty neat. Labor intensive for sure, but it takes your grain and takes it a whole lot further nutrient wise than just the grain would. Yes, ma'am. And Jill takes questions too.
Jonathan asked, what age did you put your kids to work? He's thinking 6 months might be a little small, but
No, not really. Is this
Jonathan Pierce.
Jonathan Pierce? Okay. I'll tell you what. With your first son, I would think that you're probably going to have more than, I don't know. But with your first son, Brittany can help you out a lot here, right? She can say, oh, are you going to go out and help Dad? And all the things that Dad does, Mom can say, oh, wow, that's really cool. Look at Dad's out raking leaves. Ooh, Dad's doing this. And then when the little feller His name's Harley. When he goes out to help Dad, he's not going to really help you, but he's going to think he's helping you, and let him help you until he gets tired of it, and then let him go. Let him go play, right? But you got to stay on him and say, nope, you're going to be working with me today, and or for the morning or for whatever. And it's surprising, the kids, when you let them go, they don't go too far. Like, they want to play, but they like to kind of stay around Dad. And then every now and then you say, hey, can you help me out here for a minute? And after a while, my kids are like, sure, yeah, no problem. I had a story where this is just recently, I was going to do a pig. Oh, but anyway, let me finish it. With your first kid, you have to do that. The second kid is going to watch what the first kid's doing and the attention he gets from Dad and say, I want that. And so okay, well, I need you boys to paint this fence, and have them work along so you're painting it too, because they'll make a mess. But realize that that's coming. They're not pros. You're gonna be you're training them. And Jonathan, you know what it's like to be a trainee. Jonathan, it was Army. But I think you can read, can't you? Just a little joke there. Air Force people give Army people a hard time about being illiterate, but they're not all illiterate, only some of them. But you're training them. You're training them how to work and have a good work ethic. So my work ethic is, I actually like to work, right? I can take a little bit of leisure time, but then I feel really comfortable getting back to work, So that's probably the biggest thing that you can give Harley, is a work ethic, even more than the education, because a kid with a good work ethic shows up at you name the business, you name it. And businesses have seen enough of a degree in this, a degree in this, a degree in this, and seeing totally useless, spoiled rotten little punks. But you get a kid there. My second oldest son is a great example. He liked welding. He liked building stuff with me. When he was getting to the place where he was going to get out of the house, he said, well, I want to go to school to get some welding certifications. I want to go to the Lincoln School of Welding, or no, it was the Ohio Technical Institute. And he went and he got about 5 good certifications, went to work for a crane company, welded for a year and a half maybe, and then they moved him into, and he showed up every day. He took a shower before he went to work. He did all the things, didn't show up drunk, didn't, said yes, sir to his bosses, didn't lie to him. Was just a good guy. And when he was put to work, he just stayed with the job. He didn't stop and take breaks. He didn't only do a little bit and say, well, I don't know how to do the rest. He would figure it out, and he was just good at that. And they moved him into an engineering program. And then from there, they were getting engineering support out of him, and he was not an engineer. And then they moved him into another position where he stayed for, I don't know, 2-3 years. But he was in an office, and he's only like 23 years old, and he made a ton of money working for them. And when he left, he says, no, I want to bop around the United States, see the place. And they said, let us know when you're ready to come back. So the education is kind of something that gets you in the door, but the work ethic, and that's what you can give your kid on a farm. I harp on this a lot. I mean, you can teach a work ethic to your kids by showing them how to clean their room, but the intensity is not there, and the urgency is not there, cleaning your room, that it is in a homestead when you're taking care of animals and you have something that you must accomplish before you're done, So there you go. I don't want you to just take what I say just there. You need to give it a lot of thought, because you have, if Harley's 6 months, you have probably 3 years before you have to start thinking about you're gonna proceed. But it's worth giving it some conversation between you and Brittany, how you're gonna proceed. Because that's number one right now. You got that little guy that's looking to you to find out how to live, so. Okay, next.
Well, and I wanted to add, just always including him in whatever you're doing. Then he gets out there. And that's just part of what he does. Having the kids with you in the backpack, doing whatever. And I know Brittany already does that because
Yeah.
she's had pictures out. So
Yep.
it's pretty cool. You guys are doing good with him.
Yep. That's what it's all about, really. That's really what it's all about.
Chrono Bear wanted to know, would you recommend goats or cows for a first-time dairy producer?
This is a joke, right? No, I think I came to, because I used to be pretty hard on goats, right? In this group. And people say, what have you got against goats? You know, I don't have anything against them. It's just that they serve a purpose for a certain type of landscape. And if you have good grass, then I would go with a smaller version of a milk cow. And I think the reason why people go with goats is because if you haven't kept livestock, you know, you stand next to a cow and the thing is huge, even a small one, they're huge. And, well, what if he doesn't do what I tell him to do? Or what if he gets away? Or, you know, there's all kinds of scenarios that come into your head, like what could happen. So a good place to start, and I think we're going to start to facilitate this a little bit. I've really trimmed down our beef operation, you know, and when I say beef, I just mean bovine, right? And really sorted a lot out this year with grazing and cutting hay and all that stuff. And I've been doing this a long time, but I came to a place where I think I can sort processes out and be more efficient and do better at it. So here's what I recommend. If you live someplace where you think you got to have goats and you don't have enough to support a cow, then go ahead if you want to get goats, because it's a good place to start. Won't hurt you. But when the time comes and you want to, let's say, upgrade, some people wouldn't consider it an upgrade because some people like goat milk. I like cow milk a lot more than goat milk. What I think you want to do is you want to find somebody who has a milk cow and get with them and maybe see how they do it, and then say, hey, when you breed this cow back, if you get a heifer, which would be a female, I want it. And so you get a young heifer calf, like right when it's weaned off the mother, like 8 weeks, and you get it. And maybe even before you get it, you go and you pet it and you rub on it. You can take a gunny sack and rub all over them, you know, take your jacket off that smells like you and rub it all over them, or a sweaty t-shirt or something so it gets used to you. And then bring that to your farm and keep it for another 8 months, and take it out and stake it out, you know, have a stake that you put out. Let it, when you're having a picnic or something, let it go with you and walk around while you're, you know, really get socialized with you. And that's the beginning of your herd right there. And that animal, as it grows, will not be an intimidation to you. because you will know the animal, even though it's huge, you're gonna know that it's gonna do what you tell it to do and all that, if you've done things right. And there's books that you can read. The Family Milk Cow is an excellent one that I got. And but I had cows for a while, but still an excellent book. Hi, man. Well, that's the first time that's happened in a while. I had. They're like every other being. They're seasonal. Whole conversation right there, but they're gonna lay really good in springtime because that's when, life comes forth. And then when we go into winter, they're, that's when they're gonna quit laying. So they go into what they call a molt. And there are ways around that, but I don't recommend those ways because I kind of teach that, and the guys can do what they want, but I kind of teach that a good rule of thumb on everything you do is, what does the scorecard say at the bottom? Like if you go play mini golf, who did the best here? Who did the best, and who's going to do the best next time? So there's a scorecard, and some people don't want to do a scorecard, or maybe you've been doing a scorecard for a long time and you're not going to do it anymore. But the scorecard would be, did we make a gain on this? Did we make a gain on these hens here? Okay, we got the eggs, and we'll assign a dollar value to the eggs. We had to feed them food, so that comes off the bottom line. If you have to keep a heat lamp on in their where they live, that electricity is going to cost money. Actually, it's going to burn a lot. Heat lamps, I don't recommend them. I hate heat lamps. They burn so many buildings down. I do not recommend them at all. I do not like heat lamps. But an incandescent light might be okay because it's not going to start a fire. But they don't need heat. It's the light, actually, that kicks them back into laying, like the longer days. So I hate, or Jill hates, buying eggs. We could keep 50 or 100 layers, and buying eggs just seems like a smack in the face, but all of the chickens will stop. If we put an incandescent light in there, maybe 5 of them will kick back in, but that's enough. That's enough so we have eggs for the house, right? And then in the spring, when they all start getting into it, and you're picking up, 40 eggs a day, what do you do with 40 eggs? We don't eat them, but that's where you want to find out about water glassing. And you can find out, there's a video on Baker's Green Acres YouTube that Jill does about how to water glass your eggs. And it's a process where you make hydrated lime. So, just lime, like lime that you'd put on a field. And it doesn't have to be pickling lime. It could be just field lime. And you make a solution of a cup of lime to a quart of water, and you put your cleaned off eggs. They got to be cleaned off. You don't want to use detergent on them. You just, if they have poop on them, if you have to run them, like take it with your hand and dunk it in a little bit of water and just move it around till you get the chunks off, and then you arrange those in the bottom of a white bucket, and then you pour the hydrated lime over them, and then you make another layer, more lime, another layer, more lime, and what you'll notice is the eggs don't float. If they do float, then you pitch them or use them, shortly, but they probably won't. You don't put in any eggs with cracks or breaks. And those eggs will keep up to 2 years like that. No refrigeration necessary. I wouldn't put them in the sun. I'd put them, like on the stairs down to the basement, or, we put them in the basement here. So they're sealed, you know, it's a white bucket with a lid on it. And you got this huge glut of eggs, and they're nice eggs because the grass is up and all that stuff. So that's how you save them. And then when winter comes along, you don't have to use a light in your hen house. So there you go. But everything's seasonal, and if we start thinking along those lines, we can overcome a lot of the intricacies of small farming, homesteading. Okay, here's an example. Okay, with this dreaded Wu flu, I've said this a lot of times, so you guys probably tired of hearing this. Is that the last one? Why don't you cut loose if you want to?
Yeah,
If you want to. All right. You can't get animals in to be processed because a lot of the plants have been shut down because somebody there got the Wu flu, or the inspector comes in with the Wu flu, or something. There's just a bunch of reasons that they come up with. They're just trying to make us miserable. And so you can't get stuff processed. So I've been saying, well, you need to learn how to do your own. Right? It's not brain surgery. And even brain surgery probably isn't that hard, but you just need to learn how to do it. But when it comes to beef, that's a little difficult for me to say to you guys, learn how to do your own, because it's a daunting task. I mean, a big pig is a daunting task, but for someone who's new, a chicken is a daunting task. And for beef, I have to think it through a little bit. I mean, I've done lots of them, but still it's, okay, here we go, you know. Because as soon as you pull that trigger, there's no turning back. You've got a 2,000-pound animal on the ground, let's say, and you got to deal with it. You can't deal with it, you know, tomorrow afternoon. You got to start dealing with it right now, right? So you prepare yourself for it, and once you do it, you just go to it. Our problem has been our butcher shop is a custom butcher shop, so we can butcher animals for other people. The problem with that is in the summertime, let's say somebody brings a beef to you and they say, can you butcher this? I have to say no, because I cannot ensure that it's going to be a fly-free environment. You know, there's no way I can do that. You'd have to just sit down there on patrol, on guard, and I don't want to do that. I don't have HVAC in that facility where I can bring the temperature down so low that flies can't fly around. And if I did, that would be costing me a lot of money. I have to run it 24/7, and then all of a sudden it goes down. I got a problem, you know. So I don't want to get involved with that because it's a huge commitment. It's like buying a cabin cruiser, you know. Every time you use it, it's a huge commitment. And I don't want to butcher beef around the clock. I don't want to, I mean, around the calendar year. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do anything all the time. I like to diversify. Some people like to do the same thing all the time, and good on you, but I'm not like one of those people. So with this thing and with the Anyone Can Farm program, I'm kicking around the idea of, hey, we could offer a class on processing beef, but I need space to do it. And that's why that whole thing I talked about, expanding the maintenance shop, one of the things you have to have with the beef is you have to have a high rail. It's got to be up there that you can, you know, chain hoist a beef up so you can go to work on it. Yeah, a lot of times you have to use a ladder to get up that high, to get them skun. So, if I was going to do it not seasonally, then I would have to have infrastructure to keep the animal cool and to cool the carcass down and to hang the carcass. You got to hang beef for about 10 days at somewhere like above freezing, but not 50. It needs to be like 38 would be perfect for about 10 days. So I can do that if I do it at the correct time of year. So let's say it gets too cold, it's easy to add a little bit of heat just to keep it so it will still age. That's pretty easy to do. There's methods to doing that, you know. So we're gonna work our way around that whole thing by saying, okay, we do beef, but I'm only doing my own beef. Let's say I run them out of my own, I might go buy one off somebody, but then it's mine, and I can butcher my own beef, and I can sell whatever I want so long as it's not a controlled substance, right? They're gonna try and tell you can't, but that's not true. You know, I can't sell crack cocaine because it's a controlled substance, but hamburger is not. And, you know, so that's kind of made up. Now, you can't sell it to a retail store because they're under contract with the Department of Ag. And it would just be a contractual problem. Even a farmer's market, if you want to go there, you're signing a contract, right? That all your beef is done under what they would call inspection, whether it's storage inspection or processing inspection. So you couldn't do that. But I don't recommend you do that anyway. I recommend that you do business with your neighbors and your friends and your family and basically your patrons directly to the customer, not through farmer's market or anything else. And you start with one customer, you give them several of your cards, and before you know it, you're gonna have a person call you and say, hey, I wanna get some of those chickens too. Oh, okay, how many you want? You know, and your customer base will grow, and it'll grow organically, probably commensurate with the rate of your what's the word I'm looking for? Your level of expertise. All right, your level of expertise at farming, it will grow commensurate. But a lot of people that have been doing this a while, they have far more people knock on their door for beef, pork, and chicken than they have beef, pork, and chicken. And I'm one of them. You know, we did a lot of chickens this summer, and they're gone. They're all gone. But that's kind of how we want it. We want a set number of chickens we're going to do. And, you know, once it's over, it's over. You don't want to raise 5,000 chickens, put them all in the freezer, and then try to sell them. You don't want to do that, because every day that those freezers run, it's shaving your profits off the bottom line. What you really want is your neighbor wants to get 20 chickens, so on butchering day, she comes and gets them. And then they go in her freezer, right? She's happy, you're happy, the transfer's done, it's over, right? You don't want her come and say, well, I'll come and get 2 today, and then two weeks from, no, because the chickens are losing value when they're in my freezer, and that's not how I do it. You gotta take, you want 50 of them, you gotta take 50 of them, or maybe we'll break it into 25 and 25, you know, like that. So that's how we overcame this thing with the beef, was saying, okay, we're gonna do, let's say, per year, 10 beef, let's say, that's it. Custom cut our beef and sold to our customers. Well, that's nothing to sneeze at right there, because if you own the beef and you're doing the process, you take a beef into a processor, and he's gonna want between 40 and 60 cents a pound to cut that thing up. So you're gonna be writing a fat check to that butcher. Well, why not you? You know, can you butcher 10 beef a year? Maybe not now, you can't. But with a little training, sure you can. Sure you can. Sure, there's no doubt in my mind that you can do it. It's all just steps along the way. Well, I don't even have a gun. Well, that would be your first step then. You're gonna have to get a gun. Well, I've never shot one. Okay, find somebody that has. Say, can you show me how to shoot a gun? Sure, sure. Maybe we could do that. We could have gun shooting. But I would like to add that to our anyone can farm repertoire of things that we teach would be beef processing, right? So I wonder how many, can I have a show of hands? How many people would be interested in doing that? James P., I have 9 rifles. That's code for something, isn't it? And, you know, while I'm at it, are there any other skill sets that maybe I'm overlooking that people would say, gee, I wish you'd do a class on that? I'd appreciate the input. Now would be a good time. There's a lot of people on here. By the way, our sizes, our size of viewing audience has really gone up in the last couple weeks, right? Okay, we're at 76 minutes and I'm about done. Thanks everybody for coming by. Remember, anyone can farm, and we will see you tomorrow night.